At 0958 hours, a Marine Corps AH-1Z Viper attack helicopter was screaming south over the Caribbean at 150 knots toward a cartel boat that had no idea it was about to become an artificial reef. The Viper, basically a flying arsenal with anger management issues, had launched from the USS Iwo Jima Uti 15 minutes earlier, in exactly 12 minutes. This go-fast boat would discover why challenging the U.S. military is like trying to outrun your problems when Usain Bolt-on is chasing you. The pilot's eyes were locked on the target data streaming across his Pantawi top-owl full display. Range, 18 nautical miles. Closure rate, 195 knots. Time to weapons release, 7 minutes. The boat below had no idea that democracy was approaching from the north at 150 knots, guided by satellites, tracked by aircraft, and about to be delivered by a Marine who hadn't missed a target since flight school. Through the off-layer display, he could already see the heat plume from the boat's engines, 2 white-hot dots against the cooler blue of the Caribbean. Racing north like they actually had a chance. The target was being tracked by a P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft cruising at Child 20, 0 feet. The P-8 is what happens when Boeing takes a 737 and, instead of adding more seats for passengers, stuffs it with 400 million worth of sensors. It's Anapuai 10. Radar had picked up the classic smuggler signature. Twin engines, 45 knots, heading north from Venezuela on what smugglers call the Caribbean Express, which is like I-95 for bad guys. The P-8 even dropped our sonobuoys to listen to the engine noise. 2 Mercury 300 horsepower outboards running slightly out of sync because apparently maintenance wasn't in the cartel's budget this quarter. Inside the Viper's cockpit, the pilot was programming target coordinates into the TSS mounted on his old top-owl helmet display. The TSS target sight system is basically Iron Man's helmet, but for helicopters. This 200-ton low-row piece of headgear weighs on full 6 pound slots and projects all of the targeting data directly onto the pilot's visor, letting him look at something and designate it for destruction just by turning his head. The fluoropod, slaved him to the helmet, meant wherever the pilot looked, the infrared camera followed with resolution so good it could spot a candle from 5 kilometers away. The Viper itself was loaded for bear. 8 AGM. Hellfire missiles hung from its stub wings, 4 on each side. The Romeo variant was chosen for this mission because of its multi-purpose warhead. It doesn't need to know what kind of target it's hitting, it just needs to delete it. Each missile weighs 108 pounds, measures 64 inches by long, and costs 150 no. That's a Harvard education being delivered at Mach 1, 3 to someone who definitely didn't apply. The pilot had already set the laser PRF code to 1113. PRF, or pulse repetition frequency, is essentially a unique Morse code for the laser, so the missile only follows this specific beam, ignoring everything else, including the sun. Other lasers, or that disco ball from Studio 54, if it somehow ended up in the Caribbean. The military learned about buddy lacing the hard way, which is why now every laser gets its own special number, like a very deadly phone number that only one missile knows. The helicopter's weapons aren't limited to Hellfires. The chin turret you see here housed an M197 3-barrel 20mm Gatling cannon with 650 rounds, capable of swiveling at 120 degrees left or right. It could turn a boat into Swiss cheese from the 2 kilometers on away. But why use bullets when you have a missile that does its own math homework on the way to the target? Through the Link 16 data link, the military's version of a group chat. Except instead of sending memes, it sends targeting data. The P-8 was feeding real-time intel. Boat speed, 45 knots. Heading, 350 degrees. Distance to Venezuelan waters, 15 minutes. Distance to Hellfire impact, 12 minutes. The math was working out about as well for the smugglers as a screen door on a submarine. At 1006 hours, the Viper had closed to firing range, and the pilot activated the laser designator built into the TSS. Suddenly, a boat that thought it was being sneaky was being painted by 20 milliwatts mwines of light at a 4 micron wavelength. To human eyes, this laser is invisible, but to the Hellfire Seeker head, it's basically a giant Vegas billboard advertising a free buffet. The boat had started evasive maneuvers, 45-degree turns every 30 seconds. The TSS auto track mode kept the laser centered on the target using predictive algorithms that could anticipate the boat's next move better than the boat knew its next move. The laser energy bouncing off the fiberglass Huani hull created a sparkle pattern about 2 meters wide. The boat was now essentially cosplaying as a disco ball for missiles. All the while, the top owl was making micro adjustments through some ingenious tech. When the pilot moves his head even a fraction of a degree, electromagnetic coils register the change in field strength and orientation. This data feeds directly to the turret control computer at 60 updates per second. The system is so precise it can detect movements as small as 1 degree. When the pilot looks at something, the off-fleur-on turret, mounted under the nose, slews Con to match his view in less than 200 milliseconds. It's basically using the same principle as those motion capture suits Hollywood uses. Except instead of making CGI characters dance, it's aiming weapons. The pilot can literally look at a target, press a button to lock it, and look at the next target while the first stays designated. The computer compensates for aircraft movement, vibration, and even the pilot's breathing patterns to keep the lock steady. Time for configuration. The pilot selected not l'objectif and lock-on before launch. There's also low lock-on after launch, where the missile fires blind, then finds the laser. But that's for when you're feeling adventurous. For a boat doing the calm cha-cha slide deck on open water, Lobel was the obvious choice. The missile would see exactly where to go before leaving the rail. Like getting turn-by-turn navigation before starting your trip instead of just hoping for the best. Attack profile selection was next. Top attack mode makes the missile climb, then dive straight down. Perfect for tanks with weak roof armor. Direct attack sends it straight at the target. For a fiberglass boat with the structural integrity of a pool float, direct attack was the winner. The pilot wanted a waterline impact, maximum flooding, minimum floating. The fuse setting was instantaneous contact. The Romeo has delay options for bunkers where you want penetration before detonation, but fiberglass bows have about as much protection as a bikini in a paintball. Instantaneous contact would ensure the Mark 20-pound warhead introduced itself properly the moment they met. Inside the selected Hellfire, there were a lot of freedom vibes going on. The missile seeker head was cooling to minus 200 degrees Celsius using compressed argon gas. This supercooling reduces thermal noise in the detector, allowing it to see the faintest laser reflections through its germanium lens window. The seeker was already tracking that 1113 PRF pattern, ignoring its sun glint, wave reflections, and everything else. It could see the laser sparkle through its 30-degree field of view, waiting to be unleashed like a very expensive, very angry DoorDasher. That's always on time. The missile's internal systems were running through pre-launch checks. The ring laser gyroscope started spinning at 40 RPM, ready to track every movement during flight. The missile's computer booted up, loading its flight control laws, essentially the physics equations that would guide it home. It ran a built-in test, checking 147 different parameters in less than a second, all green. This missile was healthy and ready to fly. Range check. Foul, 5 kilometers. Perfect. The Hellfire can reach 8 kilometers, but at 5, fam. It arrives with maximum kinetic energy and altitude. Laser track, solid as a rock, despite the boat doing its best mechanical bull's impression. All constraints green on the weapons page. The pilot steadied the aircraft at 0 feet, reducing vibration for the critical moment. Then came the magic words through his headset. Viper 21, your weapons are free, cleared hot. In military speak, that's permission to express deliver. Some American diplomacy. At 1009 hours, the pilot squeezed the weapons release and the Hellfire left the rail. The solid rocket motor generated 500 pounds of thrust, accelerating the 108-pound missile from 0 to Mach 1, 3 and 2. 5 seconds, that's 20 Gs of acceleration, enough to turn a watermelon into a smoothie. But the missile's electronics were built for this. The missile's autopilot immediately took control. Its brain essentially thinking, okay, I see laser energy bearing 186, depression angle 12 degrees. Currently at 0 feet, speed Mach 1, distance to target 5, 100 meters, need to climb to build energy, then dive for optimal impact angle. Every 20 milliseconds, 50 times per second, it updated its solution using proportional navigation to calculate the perfect intercept point. It's the same math a quarterback uses to hit a receiver in stride, except the receiver is made of fiberglass and about to have the worst day ever. As the Hellfire accelerated, it experienced transonic buffeting. that insane shaking as it punched through the sound barrier. The autopilot compensated instantly, giving the actuators working overtime to maintain stability. The rocket motor was burning through its composite propellant at 12 pounds per second, with each pound generating temperatures of -5 or 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside the combustion chamber, the missile's skin temperature climbed to 900 degrees equal from air friction alone. The missile climbed in a graceful arc to 500 feet, trading speed for altitude like a roller coaster climbing before the big drop. The canardi fins at the front made microscopic adjustments. A degree here, half a degree there. Each movement calculated to maintain the perfect flight path. Then it nosed over into a 35-degree dive. Gravity joined the party, accelerating it back through Mach 1 inside the warhead, the FMU-139. Intelligent Fuse was armed and monitoring. This isn't some simple impact switch. It's a smart device that knows exactly when to detonate based on multiple sensors. Set for instantaneous contact, it would trigger the microsecond the crush switch detected impact. No delay, no penetration distance, just immediate conversion of explosives into chaos. The seeker head never lost sight of that laser sparkle. As the missile descended, the sparkle grew from a point of light to a distinct shape. The guidance system could now resolve the actual outline of the boat. 5 seconds to impact. The proportional navigation algorithm was solving its equations like a student who reminds the teacher, "We have homework due." 3 seconds. The control fins locked into final approach position. 1 second. The seeker captured its last image. A white fiberglass hull, growing very large, very fast. The missile was traveling at 995 miles, carrying 108 pounds of kinetic energy and bad intentions. The crush switch detected impact, and the FMU-139 fuse sent the detonation signal in exactly 1,000ths of a second. The 20-pound multi-purpose warhead detonated with the force of 28 pounds of TNT equivalent. The blast overpressure at the point of impact exceeded 205 psi, enough to turn steel into confetti. The fiberglass hull offered about as much resistance as tissue paper in a hurricane. The TSS recorded everything in glorious thermal detail. The initial impact created a white-hot bloom that maxed out the infrared sensors for a full second. Then the debris pattern became visible, a perfect 100-meter-odd circle of what used to be a boat, now identifying as artificial reef material. Larger pieces, an engine cowling here, half a seat there, splashed down first. The smaller pieces fell like very expensive rain for the next 30 seconds. Viper 21, good effect on target. Vessel destroyed. The pilot reported in the calm, professional tone of someone who just turned $1 million smuggling operation into a cautionary tale. The helicopter orbited once to confirm nothing bigger than a beach ball remained floating, then entered a course north toward the Iwo Jima. The entire engagement, from missile launch to complete vaporization. 3 seconds. Less time than it takes to order coffee at Starbucks. The Trump administration's message to smugglers had been delivered at the speed of sound. And unlike most government programs, it came in under budget and ahead of schedule. Bye for now.